Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. Aye.
Regular meeting for December 14th is to consider the planning items heard on February or October 12th, 2020 or meeting. Is there a motion to remove this from the table for discussion of the items? Motion by Brad, is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries without dissent. A, under item number 1, consider a variance request to receive the maximum square footage of the accessory building at 1,200 square feet at the property located at 4277 on Van Ness Avenue Southwest. You are here to speak for it.
Yes, I am. My name's Craig.
Excuse me one second. I can't hear any of you on the board. Are you guys using mics? I think I could hear.
Is that better?
I think I could hear Sean. I can hear you now, Larry.
Yep. Am I on?
You're good. Thank you.
Yeah,
We'll give you 1 minute there, Pat.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Okay, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Craig Buckman. I own that property. I'm here today with you guys again. Appreciate you taking the time. I did manage to find some reading on it, I guess, for the building. And I did send it in to Mr. Hadley November 2nd. And then I tried contacting him a couple times. You guys must be busy. I mean, I about imagine how busy you guys are here. And I stopped in Friday here last week and visited with Mrs. Haley and really sent her the stuff again. I'm not sure if you guys had any time to look it over since then. I know it kind of turned short notice after I understanding Brandy must have went somewhere else. But I don't know if you guys got it or not. I think you guys do.
My understanding is that Mr. Hadley received this November 2nd. Unfortunately, I only looked at it this morning.
Yeah.
I haven't received any calls from Mr. Buckman pertaining to this, but
No.
you must have been and tried to contact Mr. Hadley. But
Yes.
the building department was not contacted until Friday with Haley. So I did look at it this morning.
Okay.
I talked to Brad at CW Structural Engineering out of Bismarck, and he said to bring it to you guys. He's like, they tested it to, I guess, 40 pounds per square foot of load on this building. Wind goes by tarp age and variance for the wind load, for the UV protection and everything like that. I know there's a lifespan on these tarps. The framework is made to last a lifetime. Tarps are made to be replaced. So I don't know what else I could quite say. I mean, talking with him, he said with the way I mounted it to the ground, it should be good, but that is up to you guys to determine. And
Let's go back and take A first here and decide whether we want to allow him to leave that building there at 1,200 square feet over the allowed.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a question for Mr. Buckman.
Yes.
As part of the conversation that we had last time, I believe part of the requirement or process was for you to contact Stark County and get information with regard to the building permit process. What steps were taken with regard to that?
I talked to Mr. Hadley, and he said he needed this information before he could go any farther. So it took me a little bit. I got him the information, and then he emailed it to a couple other people in the, what do they call? He emailed it to 2 other people. Yeah, I'm trying to find them here. I'm not sure. I know Brandy was one of them, and another gentleman, and he said,
Actually, I did see the chain of, it was to Steve Josephson, city county planner, and Bobby, who does the inspections for Stark County. That's the 2 people that were in the chain.
yeah, and he said that they'd get back to me, and then, like I said, I tried to contact him a couple times, and then I come in here Friday just to double check, so I wouldn't get surprised, and I was kind of a little bit surprised, and I know that's none of your guys' fault, some things change sometimes.
When was that information or initial request provided? Or when did you first make contact with them about the building permit process?
I talked to Mr. Hadley over a year ago about the building permit.
More recently, after
Oh.
the October 12th meeting?
November 2nd is when I was able to get him the information. I talked to him that day I left here to you guys, and he says he needs this information, and I had to get it to him. So then it was a game of chasing down on the computer and then talking to email back and forth on this company that had this building. And then I got the information, I turned around and sent it to him right away. So I had the physical information for that building itself.
What is your understanding of what still needs to be done with regard to the building permit with Stark County?
Well, when I was talking to him, he says the variance for the size and the type. And that was to the city side of it, and then back to there, and then
So, Mr. Schwint, to answer that
I-
question, he would need to obtain the variance in order to get the permit?
Well, the way this process is working right now, yes.
I have no more questions for that one then, Mr. Chairman.
Questions from the board?
I guess I got a quick question. Maybe you can fill us in back, because it's a couple months ago. The county, it's their permitting process, right? Not the city's.
This structure is in the ETZ, so it needs to follow the code set up by the city of Dickinson. The permitting actually goes through the county, though. For the actual permitting of a structure goes through the county.
By city codes, are you meaning like size, lot coverage, the zoning codes? Is that-
Zoning codes and building codes.
But you have no involvement on the building side of it in the county, in the ETZ?
Well, in the ETZ, I believe the structure should still meet the adopted codes by the city of Dickinson, because it is within our extra territory. Which, based on the information that we've been supplied, if this was in the city, which it would be in the county, if we were permitting it, it would be denied.
Can I ask why?
Our last meeting, we asked that this structure needs to meet the 2018 IRC. There is no information that has been provided that reflects that. We asked also for a foundation design that meets our 2018 code. The information that was supplied does not reflect that
Okay,
also.
the foundation. Okay,
Essentially, what we would need is that if you came forward and you had this stamped as this design meets the 2018, and it would be stamped by a structural engineer, that would be accepted by the city of Dickinson. That would be foundation and the structure itself.
okay.
the information provided does, as initially when this building came to our attention, we're still at the same starting spot.
I have a question. Did CW Structural give you any documentation, they stamp all the drawings they approve?
No, he did not. We visited over the phone. It was gonna cost him, and that's where we were talking, it was gonna cost him $2,000 to come out to the initial, just to say he was there. And then he goes to do the structural rating. He goes, it could be anywhere from $3,000 to $10,000. He goes, from what I had given him, he's like, you'd have to talk to the city and everything like that, and that's why I got it to you guys the time I did. In November 2nd, because I mean, I just had this actual paperwork November 1st, and then, or just a little bit before November 1st, I should say a week before, and I ended up talking to CW, and then I ended up sending it to Mr. Hadley. When I was telling him, because I told him the same stuff, I do have, I'm almost positive on the permit, I have that it is railroad ties and cemented down. And all that, when we filled out the original permit with Mr. Hadley. I just didn't have the load rating of the building framework. But I could be wrong. I mean, my brain doesn't work that well, so.
And again, as far as tying it down to railroad ties, that would have to be a design from an engineer that this would be adequate to withstand our wind and snow loads here for Dickinson, North Dakota.
I-
And we don't have any of that.
We do not have any of that.
Mr.
Hey.
Chairman, just a quick question. You keep going back to Mr. Hadley, but does he do any permitting? Did he send you to anybody who's in charge of the actual permitting? He doesn't permit any of the structures, does he?
No, he,
For
no,
the
he does
county
not.
or the city, right?
The county permit, does the permitting. As far as who.
But even in the city, he's not in charge of building permitting, is he?
Correct.
Did he get you in touch with anybody on the permitting side for, In
No,
the county?
no, he didn't. I thought I had,
He
No.
did send it to Steve Josephine, who is part of the county permitting process, I believe.
and Steve never contacted you?
No, I did
regarding
not
this
get a
as
contact
far as-
back.
I guess I got another question.
Go ahead.
Into the process that we're doing here, because we got two. One is for a variance for size, and then one is for structure.
For material and structure, yeah.
I
Yes.
guess the question, if we're not interested in the material, does that change the size? Maybe it's a chicken and an egg thing here, if, because are we looking at the square footage based on this structure, or are we just looking at the square footage change or the variance based on the lot?
I would say it's just the square footage of the building on the lot. Is that not what we're looking at?
I would say that's how you should look at it. If this process was done properly from the beginning, and someone would come forward to you prior to building a structure, they'd be requesting that. So I think it'd be appropriate to base a decision on that, and then,
No objection here.
Okay.
But if we don't like the structure that's there, don't we want to see what he's going to put to
Can I
approve
replace
the
it?
variance for the square footage?
And-
Most of the time, we're approving those square footage
Mm-hmm.
variances based on, the structure and how it looks, how it looks, and,
That's true.
that's.
You're
if you
tying
want-
the two together instead of this saying, okay, this structure covers 1,200 square foot more than allowed on that lot.
Well, I guess in my own mind, I'm not necessarily against maybe a expansion of the square footage allowed, but I don't know if I'm in favor of a structure that's,
Hasn't been.
Well, and I don't know that we know that it even meets the code, so even if we approve it and it doesn't meet the building code or the art, he might not be able to do it anyway, so then I don't want to put me in a spot where I'm approving something that he's gonna be comfortable saying, okay, I got the approval, and now permitting wise, they say, but that doesn't mean permitting. And then we don't know what's gonna happen.
That's a very good point. Again, the process, we're going backwards here. So, I guess, I don't know if I make it easier. Right now, the city would recommend denial of the structure, based at square footage and the type.
So we should actually be combining A and B to make a decision on denial, huh? Is that what you're saying?
Again, that would be the recommendation of the city as far as, we're standing as the structure and the square footage should be denied at this point.
Mr. Chairman, I think from a procedural perspective here, you could certainly allow the structure to exceed the square footage, but you could also, for A, and then for B, you could deny the request for the building materials, but ultimately that, in retrospect, probably denies A as well. So I think the question becomes probably looking at them holistically and saying and determining as a board, do you want to permit the structure based on what is existing? And then I think if the answer to A is in the negative, then B will also be in the negative because they're combined, so to speak. So ultimately, whether you want to permit the structure based on what you know, not what you think you know or will know in the future, or what do you know now? And it seems like there's some questions still with regard to materials and capacities for wind and snow loads and things of that nature. But there are two separate variance requests, so I think they're ultimately intertwined, but I don't think in this regard it's probably going to matter if you take them separately to determine what your ultimate result is going to be.
Can I make a request? Can we do this in two separate ones? And if, like you said, the building don't meet code, instead of me spending $10,000 on an engineer coming out here saying, yes, I'd rather put a permanent structure up that size, like what they have down the street, the size of buildings they have in their backyards. There's 240 by 60s. I mean, I'd like to stay with the same size, but I'd just rather go stick-built. I mean, post frame.
You don't have a problem with removing this and going with everything
Post
according
frame.
to
Steel siding,
specs to match what you have there?
if I could.
And
I mean, to me, it doesn't pay to spend that, like I said, that extra $10,000 on an engineer to come here and say, yeah, we can certify it. I mean, when I was talking to him, he goes, it's doable, but it's gonna cost you a lot. If I'm gonna spend this much, I might as well have something that none of us can doubt. I can have an engineer report for the building before going on. Because, from what I understand, Menards, they'll give you a printout, engineered post-frame building printout for what you want, the material list and everything like that. If we can switch to that, keep the same size. I think, well, it'll take a little while, but I'll swing it with money-wise. I mean, that's the biggest thing. I mean, if I'm gonna spend $10,000, I'd rather make it something that makes everything worth more. If that works for you guys.
well, it's pretty difficult to approve something that hasn't been approved by the structural engineer, so.
Yeah, I understand this is a problem with you guys. I mean, I understand the concerns everybody has. I messed up, but I'm asking, I'd like to keep the same size. It has shown very useful in everything I've got. I mean, I'd like to get my yard cleaned up, hiding it in that building. It's would make it better. If, to get this approved, if I, like I said, going to the post frame side, tin, steel, wood, if that works for you guys. I mean, just so we can get the variance for the size at least, and then go from there. I don't know, I know it's kind of unethical and kind of backwards, but it seems like we're jumping back and forth a lot from county to city.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
to kind of weigh in again procedurally here, I think at this juncture, you can only, if the decision is to not allow the structure, then to deny both A and B. And if Mr. Buckman wants to move forward with a different type of structure, that's a different permit. I would recommend that it be gone through the proper procedure and process at that time, and then he can obtain the variance, come back with additional information for this committee to make the decision based on the information that he's going to provide with regard to that structure.
With what materials and
Correct.
and
Yep.
everything that comes?
Not
okay.
saying that it would be denied, but just to give you an opportunity to come back with more
Yes.
information on the actual structure that you
Yeah,
want to.
I mean, that, like I said, I mean, it's just, I understand that we're having a lot of problems with the building. Makes sense. I mean, I don't want you guys to step somewhere you can't feel comfortable. I mean, I wouldn't do it either. I'm just asking, my thing was to try to keep the size and so I can keep going and get started on the other process, because I know the size thing is also with the permitting thing, and then we're running back and forth 3 times before we get anywhere.
Well, I think it definitely makes a difference what materials to determine what size
Yes.
also is what we're saying here too.
And I
Any
think
que-
if we have a drawing, you go back and get a drawing and conceptual size of what you're going to do and have a foundation approved by an engineer, we are quite favorable in that direction.
Okay.
So I think you'll find that if you go back and start over and do it the right way, I think it's going to
That's
be
simple
a
enough.
plus for you.
Okay.
And I'd ask that, Mr. Buckman, our office is open, stop in, we'll get you on the right path so that we don't have any more hiccups.
That's, yes, that's, like I said, a lot of this is
Okay.
my mistake, and that's why we're here.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, let's take them one at a time here then, and as long as we have them listed separately. A, do we have a motion to deny or accept? Approve?
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that we deny the request for this property building located at 3257 110 South Avenue Southwest.
Square footage.
Yes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Sean. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Pat?
Aye.
Sean?
Aye.
I'll vote aye. Item B, material for the structure.
I'd make a motion to deny the building material
As presented.
as presented.
Second?
I'll second that.
Second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Sean?
Aye.
Pat?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye. So let's start over again and do it right.
That's simple
Oh,
enough to do.
Okay. Very good.
Thank you.
Mr. Leonard,
Anything else? Nothing, no other business? Yes.
Mr. Chairman, and this may be a question for
Yes.
Mr. Schwint, is there a time frame in which Mr. Buckman needs to remove the structure?
I'd ask that the structure be down in 30 days.
can I ask, it's stuck to the ground in a few spots, and I don't want to wreck it. Can at least we make it till the end of May where everything's thawed out again? I know we haven't had much for 12 days, but I was walking around it today, because I did bury some of the skirting under the story, and I do not want to wreck the thing. If I could at least get it till the end of May, I'd appreciate that.
I would like to confer with the county as far as how they're looking at this. and then we can contact Mr. Buckner.
Okay. Well, let's remove it as soon as possible.
I would say just based on the recommendation of the building official and Stark County Code Enforcement, whatever they feel and deem appropriate would be sufficient.
Okay. Very good, thank you. Anything else? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
I would make a motion.
Motion
that
by
we
Pat,
adjourn.
second by
Second.
Sean. We are adjourned. Thank you.